everyone. Just want to thank you for all to come here for the closing. I'm grateful. Finally, this is nicely done. And thank you for all the volunteers. And without the attendees, there's no point for us to even do this, of course. So without further ado, let me introduce James, and also Ken is on the conference call on the other side, which is he's in Nova Scotia.
Hi, thanks, Bibi. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out today. My name is James O'Grady. I am the president and founder of Unpublished Media, Inc. It's a website, social media properties dedicated to bringing democratic change to Canada and to other places around the world, hopefully someday like Hong Kong. From time immemorial, people have been fighting, humankind has been fighting for the right for self-determination, the right to live their own lives, free of interference, of domination, and of people who are looking to abuse them and exploit them. It's not a proud human history that we have, but in all of us and from this time, we have always desired the will to live in peace. And Canada, I believe, encompasses many of those ideas. 𝗪𝗟𝗡𝗍𝗔 had the dream that all nations could come together and live in peace in Canada. And I believe that through his program and his vision for multiculturalism that we have achieved that. And it's that message and that understanding that we need to bring to the world. And I'm very happy to see an exhibit here like today that helps to express some of the challenges that other people are having around the world. Like in Hong Kong, we also see this with the war in the Ukraine now. People are fighting back, and here in Canada, we can do our bit in order to support and to help them. And an art exhibit like this is one of the many ways in which we can help. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce Ken Lywood, a Canadian artist, and a friend of mine who I met in 2019 on the political trail. Ken is originally from Toronto, plies his trade now in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, and that's where I met him. Art came naturally to Ken. He says he's not sure what came first, breath or art. He came into his own as a post-realist in the 1960s. The best of all possible times, he says. A golden age of self-expression in Canada. And so Ken is one of the people that has helped Canada, a very young country, begin to express itself through the form of art. And so I'd like Ken to say a few words now. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm pleased to be here. And I'm just going to ramble away here and hope eventually to reach my point. I just happened to fall on cartoon from Charlie Brown, and it says, no one is going to give you the education you need to overcome. No one is going to give you the support you need to overthrow them. So I'm not surprised to hear of the censorship struggle in Hong Kong. Not surprised at all. It's a global problem. Censorship is increasing dramatically in most countries of the world, including our own Canada. You know, who are the hatred? You don't have hatred. Somebody must be killing you. And as I said, I grew up my art career, at least in the 60s, and there was enough freedom and loose cash around that with those stuff. It's always good and they thought that was good.
by the Southeast because ที่มันเป็นการโซน
Ken, we couldn't hear you too
So,
much.
censorship is in control, I suppose. Usually
He can't hear you.
that ruling class.
And he won't answer the
And they
phone.
would sort of rise up and protest. Usually it was verbal, visual, or audio. And it occurs to me that the toughest protest in Canada was really a piece of performing service on a grand scale. Involved the whole country, a massive truck congregating. And perhaps the most damning evidence that undermines your objective were two things. One, the blowing of horns. I'm thinking that is an audio protest. And the other, of course, was clogging traffic, interfering with commerce. You just can't do that. I'll write it on the top part. You don't get in the way of commerce. Commerce for all the things. But in any case, it was a piece of performance art, and by extension, it was a piece of street art. And I'm thinking when art hits the street right now, I think of Banksy, for instance, who hit the street with visual art with political overtones or undertones. And not just before Banksy, we had the graffiti movement, which had itself into the rap music movement. And they were both global. And which involved in Hong Kong as the network, global connected gallery. So it's a strange place to try to institute what has traditionally been very private and personal expression of individual artists, concerned primarily with what we call beauty. And I wonder what role beauty plays in these days. If it plays any role, I don't know. If it's been drowned out by masses. When I was going to art school, there was a common phrase, all messages should go through humanization. That you did, for any reason, introduce pertinent message or biased message into your work. That your work has to do with you and you alone, so to speak, not your connection to the social fabric. Well, in any case, once you move beyond that attempt to describe beauty, and that's basically where I still stand, and Big Zen is my God. And we went out into nature and tried to translate that through his eyes into something meaningful for all of us. And that's the beauty I search for in art. And I found it somewhat missing in today's atmosphere. Of course, I've become a rather old dodgy guy. And on the first trying to keep up with these, I participated in this because I want to inform myself a little further on what's going on. And I wish every artist will. But I tell you, the reason I asked how they make a living is because it's very dangerous. The infiltration of elements of survival, competition, all those factors have been dangerous of undermining the artist's true search for beauty and their forms of distraction. They're also very meaningful and very necessary in today's society because who else is doing it? Who else is inviting you to look at things through other eyes? Everyone's saying, look here, look here, look here. And you are saying, here is what I truly see. And that's very meaningful and very dangerous. What's behind around the veil. So, I'm going to go to the self-experience and now myself. And another one of my idols is Matisse, who sat in the south of France during the Second World War with beautiful models and vases of flowers. And he was condemned for that, understandably so. When you think of all the artists that suffered and died during the Second World War, and the pursuit of Nazi Germany to impose censorship in its most terrible form. But another one of my favorite artists is 𝗀𝗙𝗚𝗏. And if you know his work at all, you'll know he falls into what was called impressionism. And it follows impressionism. And we were starting to drift away from the strictly liberal concept of beauty towards attitude towards beauty, which is both of the joys of very successful, really. And Nova, he really wanted to be an artist. He strived to be an artist. But they, of course, condemned him utterly for his art. They had a word for it, degenerate. And not only would they not allow him to fight, they wouldn't allow him to paint. And like the few other artists, he was painting in the street. He was a closet. He was a street. Yeah. I don't know whether to just keep talking here or to go on and on. You know? I'm thinking, I'm just going to read you something else I said. Cave painting, where it all started, I just read you a lot of those poems on the wall. They're identifying as female poems now, which is interesting. And he went into the darkness and painted so he had some control over the hunt. So right away the painter was essential to the society. And I suppose it's time to ask ourselves, is the painter essential to society? Would the world be better or worse without Mona Lisa? Mona Lisa never made a bed, I don't think. But the art basically is part of its value in its usefulness. It's not meant to serve a purpose.
Can you guys hear
It's
it?
meant to open our eyes. So we have to be careful when
I'll try to paraphrase what he said really quick.
The better or worse, I think. And I think it went from there to, I had a Western art history like everyone else. And it wasn't until not that long ago that artists started realizing they were making art from the rest of the world. And of course it was with Picasso looking at African sculpture and Van Gogh looking at packing plates with Japanese waxing and so forth that opened their eyes and eventually ours to the manner in which they were affected to the artist and the meaningful art of the rest of the world. And as I say, the first global movement is graffiti. And graffiti is always been done, and it's always been done protest. It's not ridicule. I just take a hand in. And it was in abundance from the walls of ancient Rome, I believe. And it's a form of cartooning that came out of that, which led to the Egyptian dynasties and their rigid art forms, which were basically cartoons. That's where the Aztecs and so many other so-called primitive nations. I'm having a mental breakdown. Have I talked enough?
Yeah, that's good. Tell him I can't see him.
No?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. So Ken was essentially, he was saying, trying to talk about how art. Yeah, well, I know. Can you speak to him? How art through the ages has influenced political thought, and he touched on a little bit on his experience here in Toronto. He was saying down at, I don't know if this helps, he was saying down at Union Station that in the 1960s that you weren't allowed to really talk about in your art. You weren't allowed to express what was going on in Canadian society at that time. It was more about how you could express your own feelings. So there were limits that society was placing around the artists in Canada, and you would know yourself how Canadians in Canada places kind of limits around everybody in terms of what's expected and what's not expected, and what is traditional WASP culture. And I don't know how familiar you are with that term, but I'm of Irish Catholic descent, my ancestors, and so the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants were our enemies for a long time. Right? We're here because they kicked us off of our land and forced us to come here. So just to give you an example, he also touched on a Nazi artist in Germany who he was unabashedly, I guess he was a very famous artist, but he was also unabashedly a fascist, and so he was condemned widely for that. He wasn't a bad artist, like, I don't know if you've seen Hitler's art that he had. It was really, really weak, kind of paint by numbers type of stuff. But this guy was a legitimate artist. But still, if artists cross that line and they actually engage in a political discourse, they risk life and limb, as we've seen in many instances. So I'll just leave you with one thought, which I didn't mention in my own speech, was a quote from Pablo Picasso, and that is that if everybody painted, everybody learned how to paint, there would be no need for political re-education. So I don't know if that's true, but I hope someday we can put it to the test. Okay, well, thank you.